You
Thank
sent me an
you.
email saying that you've got quite a story and that you've been on the run. You were on the run for years. You evaded the authorities, the US authorities. You had a technique that worked. And how did all this begin?
Well, I don't want to. First of all, I'm not trying to brag. That's not the point. And I'm not trying to educate other, would-be felons on how to evade capture. I just kind of, if anything, I want to tell my story to, as a warning to other people that may be considering that they're smarter than the law, that you will get your comeuppance from karma one way or the other, Just because I wasn't in a cell and I didn't do the time that I probably should have done doesn't mean that it was a good life. In fact, it was a life full of fear. It was a life basically thinking at any point in time your life could be completely ruined, and it's no life. I think you've had other guests who've told you about being on the run and how unless you've got money or got a source of support, you're not going to make it. And I think for a lot of people that is true. Where my story starts is I go really way back to the beginning, but as a kid, didn't have the greatest of childhoods. In fact, I was named after a pimp, believe it or not. My mother named me after a pimp. She wasn't a prostitute, but we had a pimp in the family, and she thought he was a nice guy, and she named me after a pimp. So that's probably not a great way to start. His pimping abilities did not rub off on me at all. That's unfortunately. My mother and my father was a musician. My mother found out she was pregnant with me when she had an accident at work. She was working on a concrete mixer, and the concrete mixer had grabbed her long hair. She didn't have it up in a bun. She was always trying to, do the boy jobs so that she could do the boy jobs. It grabbed her hair and actually pulled off a part of her scalp. And it was really bad, yeah. And she was a beautiful woman. And when she went to the hospital, they said, yeah, we can put you under sedation and fix this for you, but you're going to lose your baby. And she's like, what baby? So my mom, God with her, she went 9 months disfigured to carry me to term, And to be honest, that I feel a lot of shame for the bad part of my life that I led, because labor enough is hard enough. To go through it, disfigured where you can't look at yourself in the mirror, that's another thing altogether. My dad, God rest his soul, as much as I love him, he was a musician. Women like musicians, and he cheated on my mom when she was in this state. So my mom had a really rough time when after my family members would come over, to see the new baby, they'd find me dirty. My mom had a horrible postpartum because of all these things that happened. My father cheating on her. We never really got to bond because of that. So life wasn't starting out great for me. You can enter in here, a lot of abusive step parents and things like that. But where I found my escape was in the computer. In fact, I always find this, God, the universe, whatever, it gives you a light at the end of the tunnel. Even the guys that are in there doing multiple life sentences, they find a light, whether it's helping other people, their family. You don't ever get the dark closed in on you completely. And that was one of my lights. So in the 1980s, I was BBSing, reading computer manuals, and, I self-taught myself, how to do some minor programming, mainly into building machines, doing hardware and connectivity on what was the burgeoning internet. Unfortunately, those skills also brought on my crime. And I basically, in the early 2000s, from probably about 1999 to about 2001, I had engaged in what they call identity theft today, which is basically taking other people's social security numbers, their identities, and what I would do is get financing. And I would get financing for items that you could purchase over the phone. So you didn't have to show up with ID or anything like that. And they'd run the credit report or credit rating and see this person had a great credit rating. And they'd get, financed for a $2,000 or $3,000, dollar computer. You know what I mean? Let me just double check my mask here, my hijab. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, back to back here. So,
yeah.
Long story short, what I would do is contact major computer manufacturers like Apple, Dell, Alienware, Purchase Systems. They'd be worth around $2,000 using people's credit, their lines of credit. And I would take those computers and then sell them on. Simultaneously, what I was doing was also running my own computer business, but it wasn't a proper business. It was business and, name only. I wasn't paying taxes. I was buying computers, building them, and then selling them through the paper. That kind of became another illegal thing that I did too, because not only was it a legitimate business, but I get a lot of people that would bring those computers back, not because they're broken, but because it was, the year 2000, people were just getting on the internet. They didn't know what they were doing, and they'd take the frustrations out on the computer. In the industry, we call that a PEBCAC error. Problem exists between chair and keyboard. So they didn't have the tolerance of this. Now, I was selling computers for like $500, and you get the cheapest one you get from Dell around that time was probably around $1,000. So they got a great deal, but they'd bring them back, and it got to the point where I'm doing all this support, and now I realize why Dell is charging $1,000, because they're charging for their time on support, and I wasn't doing that, and I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to get another call from Jane. The next time she brings a computer over, I'm just going to resell that thing, And that was a shitty thing to do. It was a shitty thing to take people's credit, to fuck it up. A lot of those people were, starting out in life. They were younger, and I'm pretty sure that it isn't a problem for them now, but it definitely probably fucked up some shit for them, So that's what I did.
And how did that come to an end?
Well, the big thing that happened was when a few different things happened simultaneously. So the first charge I got busted on, I didn't even know that I had a warrant out. I was living in between 2 states, and I was on the border between these states. And long story short, what could happen is you get someone from another state coming over to your state to buy a machine, or you drive over the border and bring a computer to them to sell them. One of these ladies kept calling me up. I just ignored her because I knew she didn't have a genuine problem. The computer was booting. She was getting into Windows. Her mouse and keyboard was working. It was just, she'd ask me stuff like, why does Yahoo Mail say this? You know what I mean? And I didn't want to do the support. Well, lo and behold, I found out later this person had some connections. And she got annoyed with me and kind of made it her life's mission to fuck with me. And see, that's where karma comes in, because I may not have done this person wrong, but I was doing a lot of other people wrong. She probably didn't know about that, but that's how karma gets you, Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
So, yeah, I mean, so basically what she did was she contacted her local county authorities, the cops, etc. They told her this is a civil matter. Lo and behold, I didn't have a business license for operating in that state. And so I got a misdemeanor charge put on me for operating without a business license. I was driving in that state one day with a tail light out, got pulled over. The next thing I know, I'm being put in cuffs. That was an eye opener, because I didn't really know what I was being arrested for. The cop, said, oh, some, computer stuff. I thought, oh shit, it's the big one, And it's just a misdemeanor charge. And my friends bailed me out.
So which jail did you go to?
I went to a county jail, right? Dirty, grimy, holding cell, 30 other dudes in it for busted on drug charges. Here I am, the nerdy, chubby kid at like 19. What are you in for? Operating without a business license. these guys here, they got like tattoos on their eyeballs and shit, So they
Was it
didn't know really
racially
what
divided?
No, because we were all just in one pen, all in one holding cell. We're being processed. These are all people who just got arrested. They haven't had a court date yet. You've been through that process, I'm sure,
Yeah.
So
Holding cells, yeah.
exactly, it's the holding cell. So, and you're at the county jail. Long story short, I get bailed out before my court date. I get a court date set, and on that charge, I was given probation as a first-time offense, and it was only 6 months probation. And anyone with common sense, who wasn't me, would have walked that probation, as they say. They would have walked that paper and been done with it. I blew it off. My answer was just don't go back to that state. Now, just to interrupt, the reason why I'm covering my face here, I just want people to know, is I don't want to ruin my current life. I'm not wanted for anything in any country. I've been completely law-abiding since 2001, but I just I don't want to risk my career. So anyway, my solution was just not to go back to that state, and that actually worked. Then some weird shit started happening, and I think what happened was either somebody ratted on me, someone figured out the con that I was pulling, maybe someone who got their credit fucked up with, and the state, many states away from mine, called our police department. I don't know. But one day, I'm with my friend in our shitty van, my shitty van, and we're riding dirty. Our insurance is out of date. The car is, it's an ugly, shitty van, and, it probably shouldn't have been on the road. I get pulled over, and I think, okay, well, I'm just going to tell the cops here, the truth. I'm sorry about my insurance being out of date. Well, they arrested you for driving without insurance, So I go to the holding pen, and while I'm in the holding pen in my home state, this detective kind of comes by and starts talking to me. And it's really weird. And I'm wondering why he's asking me. He's like, oh, so what were you arrested for? And all this other stuff. And I said, well, I didn't have insurance. And he asked some other probing questions. I don't remember what they were, but I didn't really think anything of it because I hadn't had a lot of jail experience at this time, He didn't come out and ask me, hey, are you dealing in stolen computers, that you got through, means of identity theft? No, he didn't do that. He just really kind of friendly questions. The next morning, as I get out of jail, I saw the judge on the video judge, and he says, yeah, driving without insurance, going to set your future court date, and you have a signature bond. You can sign yourself out. Okay, great, judge. Thank you. I get out of the jail, and I'm walking out of the jail, and the cop pulls up in his unmarked car. And he says to me, hey, do you want to lift home? And this is basically setting my spidey senses tingling. I'm like, what the fuck? Cops don't be giving people rides home. Like, what's going on here? And he seemed like overly friendly, like he was trying to connect with me on computer stuff because, well, I want you to fix my computer. I mean, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I was like, no, I got my dad coming to pick me up. I'm not even 21 at this time. So my poor old dad, he picks me up, takes me home. I get home, and I'm not there 15 minutes. I still got jail dirty on me where, you've been sitting in a holding pen with a bunch of other dudes. It stinks. You're grimy. You want decent food and a shower after 24 hours of this disgusting camping trip. You know what I mean? So I'm inside, and the doorbell rings. And it's the UPS man. I'm like, what the fuck? Am I expecting some computer that I ordered, through nefarious means? Not really, but fuck it. Maybe they sent me one twice. You get greedy, So I go to the door. I'm kind of looking out the windows. I don't see any kind of unusual cars. There's a van across the street, but it's just a shitty van. And the UPS guy has like a paper, like something from the 70s that you'd sign. Like, like when you sign it, it leaves an impression on another piece of paper. I can't remember what you call that nowadays. But it wasn't like the scanner that you sign with your, the pen. I thought, that's strange. But I sign it like an idiot. And I take the package inside. Now, as soon as I put the package on the table, do I hear, Boom, 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 warrant coming in. And they sent the whole fucking SWAT after me, right? And my flatmate at the time had pit bulls. And I just thank God his pit bulls weren't killed. You know what I mean? Because they were aggressive dogs, you know, and for whatever reason, they backed off. Smarter than me, I guess. And I remember when I was laying on the floor, you open up the door and you're laying on the floor, and every single one of those fuckers, they walked on my back. You could feel the impression of their boot on my back, you know? And they all walked on my back, and they take me outside in cuffs, put me on the curb. Some older detective, guy in his 40s, 50s came up to me. What's the passwords to all the computers? I go, what computers? Only computers on the table. And that's true because my personal shit, I didn't keep at home. You know what I mean? And detectives put me in the cop car. They take me down to jail, and they start interviewing me. And I say, my understanding is I don't have to speak and I can ask for a lawyer. You're like, yeah, you can do that, but it won't go good on you. I said, you know what, guys, I'm going for a lawyer. You know? A part of me thought I could make a deal with them, and that's how they get you, you know? And as soon as I said lawyer, they backed off, and then you go into that holding cell alone, right? Because those guys, they wanted to be your buddy and help you out of this horrible situation. You know what I mean? Of course, they really don't. They'll convict anybody to get another conviction on their record. You know, they want to promote their career. But long story short, I went to that holding cell, and then I was in county jail, got processed and put in, and I was trying to figure out what was the best way to make my life on myself inside. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna feign some mental illness. That's what I'm gonna do. Because if you can feign some mental illness, you can get in with the crazies. You know what I mean? But they keep the crazies alone usually. Oh, I can't hear if you're saying something there. I can't hear you. Shaun, I can't hear you, Shaun. Your mic might have left. Yeah, I can't hear a word you're saying, brother. Weird. Put your thumb up if you can hear me. Yeah, I can't hear you. Oh. Shoot. Do you want me to keep going? Thumbs up or no? Okay, keep going. Okay. So anyway, I figure I'll feign mental illness, you know, and that was better because the other side was gladiator school. You know what I mean? A side that I was in wasn't gladiator school. You kind of had an open dormitory vibe. You know, the shitty plastic beds, you know, the mattresses that are covered in thick tarp. And basically people kept to themselves, and there was guards always watching, you know. Well, I was in there for about a week. My bail was set ridiculously high. I think the prosecutor basically got the judge to set my bail high based on the fact that I had a previous misdemeanor, but I was a hacker. That's what they were framing me as a hacker, you know. So I'm doing that, and I get lucky. Again, my life is a series of luck, but essentially overpopulation got me out. And I was back out on the streets, still not convicted, got probation, would end up getting probation in court. I remember when I stepped into court, the judge was like, why are you not in jail right now? And I was like, well, they let me out for overpopulation. And he seemed really disappointed at that. And I was like, oh, crap. But one of the things I did was I got the public pretender, the public defender for everyone else out there, the public pretender lawyer. He did me really good. Again, got lucky. And basically, I kept stalling. I basically kept finding good, legitimate reasons to stall the case. That's tip number one if you get hemmed up. Drag it out as long as possible. Because the longer that case is on the books of prosecution, the longer the more they're gonna want to cut you a really good deal to get it off their plate. They're overburdened with cases. They want a plea deal. They don't want to take it to trial. And the longer it sits there, the more amenable they're going to be to your demands. And my demand was 1, probation, no real time, and 2, was to make it so any other previous charges, any other crimes I had done before a certain date could not be charged. Because what I was scared was they were going to find out all the other horrible crap that I did with regards to computing and hacking, and I get federal charges and shit. So deal was struck 9 months later, after 9/11 happened. That was another thing that was taking a lot of their time and resources up, so I got lucky there. Just 1 second, I need to breathe. I don't do a lot of interviews, so you have to forgive me. I'm a little bit nervous. So long story short, I get probation again. So I have probation in one state for a misdemeanor, probation in the neighboring state for felony, which the felony charge was receiving stolen goods. That's what it was called. Funny enough, that charge 2 years later was turned into a misdemeanor, but I had it as a felony. So then I'm on felony probation. And while on probation, I figured I'm going to get my shit together. I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to try to I'm going to get a good job and just do things the right way. Well, probation fucks with you. Every time I went in there, I took a P test. Never failed one P test. But they didn't like that. They want you to mess up. So you get a job and they call your boss up and go, oh, by the way, this guy was a criminal. Yeah, he's a criminal. Are you having him deal with money? Well, yeah, he handles the cash register. Well, we wouldn't advise that. This guy's charges for receiving stolen goods, but here's all the other shit we suspected him of. So when you're an employer and you got the government calling you up, a probation officer calling you up and saying, this guy's no good, you let him go. And I counted, I was fired from 17 jobs in the span of 6 months. They would not let me get my life straight. And one of the terms of probation is you got to be seeking employment or be employed, I felt that because of that and other circumstances in my life, while this is all happening, at 18, I got a girl pregnant, had a son. My family life was crap, so I wanted to make a good life for him. Me and the mom couldn't get along. She took the son away, which is why I started doing all this illegal crap. When I had my son at 18, I didn't do anything illegal, But then when she took him away, I kind of spiraled into this dark hole of, just kind of feeling like I'm never going to be a part of a family. I'm never going to have a family, so fuck it, just do what I want, So what I did was I'm on probation, and I say, screw it, I'm going to Ireland. And long story short, I went. Now I had no citizenship in Ireland at that time, no legal right to obtain it, had no relatives really to speak of. My grandmother had moved there, but she was, in retirement, she wasn't a citizen. And I found Ireland to be life-changing. The people in Ireland were welcoming. I got lots of friends very quickly. I committed no crimes while I was here. I wouldn't insult the country that gave me a second chance like that, And I keep saying long story short, I apologize. It was a good time here, but every moment you go to bed at night, you have those dreams of being deported back to jail. See, if I got deported, I wasn't going to go back to a nice house. I was going to go to jail. And I know this because I had called my public pretender up and said, oh, by the way, I absconded my probation. He said, yeah, well, you come back, you're looking at 7 years. Really? I'm like, I can't get right with them and, try for probation again. He's like, no, you're not getting that. And I asked him, I go, what would I do? He goes, I'd stay where you are because you're not important enough for them to come and try to get you. He goes, just don't screw up while you're there. So for a good 10 plus years, I'm on the run. I'm a fugitive. Stop. I can't hear you. Thumbs up if you want me to keep going. Okay, so yeah. Long story short, yeah. Again for the 20th time. Yeah. Yeah. So I decided that I'm gonna stick around Ireland because going back to jail and you know, dealing with that whole scene after having the small taste of it that I wouldn't do again. Now, however,
Can you still not hear me?
Oh, I can hear you perfect now.
Oh, good.
So I did end up doing some real time, but not in Ireland. On my first visit to Ireland, I was here for about a year, and I went back to the States. Why? Because I'm an idiot. You know, I was staying with my mom. We weren't getting along. I thought I could make it right with probation. I knew from research that if you fuck up on probation, sometimes they give you a second chance. A lot of times they do. And they did, but they put me on house arrest. So I was on house arrest I was back in the States for about 6 months. And when I flew back into the States, they were there to greet me off the plane. They were there. They were ready. They had the cans on the gun, you know, as I'm coming off the plane. Like, you know, this is after 9/11, so they're already nervous. And I remember the customs officer, like, going through my luggage. And they're not asking me customs questions like, you know, did you bring any live food or plants, you know, or, you know, what would you do over there? No, it was more along the lines of questions like, where's your computer equipment? Da, 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 da. I said, guys, I came back willingly. You know what I mean? So that was in Chicago I flew into. And I went to Cook County Jail for about a week until my state came and got me. You don't want to go to Cook County Jail. Cook County Jail, the inmates run that place. You know, saw some fucked up stuff in Cook County Jail.
Like what?
Saw a guy drinking his own piss because they saw that I had in my records from my state. They saw that I had gotten on the mental health thing, so they put me in the mental health ward in Cook County Jail. Those guys, man, there's some disgusting people. You know, a lot of violence in Cook County Jail, a lot of fights. When you first come into Cook County Jail. The guards, they're not like even halfway amiable. They are there they are pissed. They are angry at life. They're angry at their job. They strip you naked. I'm there with a bunch of gang guys and, you know, white drug addicts. And what are you here for? Overdue library book? You know what I mean? And, you know, you're just like, geez, thanks for setting me up like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, your reputation is everything when you go in. And if you're going in looking weak, you're going to get exploited, you know. When I was in the crazy section, this little black kid, I call him a kid, we were both kids at the time. We were both in our early 20s, like not even probably 21, 22 at the time. Came up to me, tried to start some shit, you know, maybe thinking I was the weak guy. And it was at that moment I told myself, if you truly have nothing to live for nothing. So I just fought back, man. I just went nuts. I went crazy. I said, I don't know how to fight. You know, I'm chubby. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go crazy. And so I just started calling him every expletive in the book. And I'm just like, I just get up in his face. And he's just like, it ain't that fucking deep, man. You know what I mean? He backed up. It ain't that deep. He didn't want to deal with that, you know?
He thought you were crazy.
Yeah. My state came and got me. Luckily, I got put back on probation, so yet another chance to walk paper, yet again calling up employers. And I finally got a job that told the probation officer to fuck off. They said, we don't care about his criminal record. He's a good employee. We're keeping him. She calls me into her office, makes me do a P test. Of course, I pass it. I don't even smoke weed. And long story short, she says, you have this misdemeanor charge over in this neighboring state. I go, yeah. And they have a warrant for your arrest. I go, yeah, but it's a misdemeanor. They can't come over and get you for state lines. You know, there's no state compact agreement on misdemeanors, felonies, but not misdemeanors. She goes, you need to report over there, or I'm going to pull you up on your probation here. You need to go over there and deal with this legal matter, because that's part of your terms of your probation. So I go over there thinking, okay, well, maybe they're going to give me a second chance of that misdemeanor probation. So this is a misdemeanor charge, operating without a business license charge. I go over there, turn myself in. I was prepared to bail myself out. Got a court date really quickly, like a week later. Had a probation revocation hearing. At the probation revocation hearing, they came up and said, no, we're going to give you the full penalty of your term, 6 months. So I ended up getting 6 months in county jail.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, and the food in county jail is horrible. You do not eat good. You eat really horribly made, not made by prisoners, but it's made by these companies like Bob Barker Company, I think they're called, that make this. They make the cheapest of everything. They make your clothes, like your everything, you know.
What's the breakfast?
Some days you got these like already prepared pancake things, like 2 of them, no butter, maybe an apple or an orange. Sometimes they had syrup and like those little McDonald's type kind of syrup container things, no label, just white on the top, no marketing on this shit. And other days it was that really horrible porridge, you know, that really horrible porridge. When I learned later after living in Ireland for a long time, that TV show Porridge, what doing porridge was, I thought that was pretty funny. I said, I did some porridge, man. I found that food so unedible. A lot of time I just went fast and I just eat the fruit off the table. And after that, I wasn't chubby anymore, you know. I didn't have a beard before then. And that 6 months, they farm you out. The county that I was in, they didn't want to keep you. They basically farm you out to some county in the rural area that is willing to get paid a lower price than what they're getting paid for by their county to host you. So not only does the county that you have the charge in make money, but off of you, and they can, you know, tie that into it as a profit, but they also get you not in their jail and they have more room to pick up more people. So you're farmed out to these counties like, you know, rural sounding counties, you know, Herman County, things like that, you know. And those jails out there, they build that jail, and it's the one source of employment for that town, you know. So everybody's related to each other that works there, you know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, farmed out to those places, did the full 6 months, which is the maximum that misdemeanor carried. While I was in there, I got into a couple fights. And when you're in these big pods, when I first walked into that pod, when I was farmed out to, in my county that I was in, I had my own individual holding cell, and you could lock your door and not come out. You know, you didn't have to come to breakfast. I'll tell a few stories. So, first story is at the county where I caught the charge. It was a rich county, had a rich, nice jail, crappy, horrible food, and we had TVs in the pod, and you'd look up and see the news. And it's then we discovered that one of the guys in with us had tried to meet a boy on the internet for sex. And it wasn't like some kind of sting. It was genuinely like a little boy that he had coerced. Like, I think the kid was like 10 or 11. And the dad caught wind of it, called the cops, met the guy at I think it was McDonald's or something. Not talking shit on McDonald's. No, you're not associated with pedophiles. I'm just saying. Excuse me. And we found out this Choma was in with us, and I didn't really know what to do. I wasn't experienced with prison life, but I knew I didn't like that kind of person. And when some of the guys who had been in a few times saw that, they turned around, dead eye, looked at this guy, and not a warning, not a dog bark, a straight "I'm gonna fuck you up." And this dude felt it. Started walking off pat towards the guard's desk, and he got put in a cell. When they brought him out for dinner, everybody stood up and said, "Get this fucker out of here. We're not eating with him." You know? And I have never seen those guards move so quick as to put someone in segregation. You know? I love segregation. You know, I had gotten to a couple fights, so I had gotten time. And one of the things they would do is, you know, "Are you ready to come out?" "No, fuck your mom." You know? "No, I'm not ready to come out. Fuck your mom. You know, she's a whore." "Fuck you. We're going to put you in there for 2 more weeks." "No, fuck you." And you get 2 more weeks of laying on your back, reading books, not having to mess with other prisoners. It was like a crappy hotel room. You know what I mean? You don't get TV. I can't see that thing anyway. You know what I mean? You get out for showers. You're in there 23 hours a day. I'm just doing sit-ups and push-ups and reading books. Crappy books, but books nonetheless. Read some Stephen King. That wasn't too bad. You know, the funny things that you remember. But I love that solitary, because that gave you peace of time and time to think about your future plans, and gave you time to just, meditate, really. I found out what I was doing later was meditating. And that made me peaceful and calm me down. You get bored of it after about 6 weeks. And so then you'd ask to, you go back to population, and there's a whole bunch of new people there that you don't know. And someone will try to fuck with you, The good thing about being in a heavily guarded environment like that is no one's going to get their brains stomped out. No one's going to get curb cooked. No one's going to get shanked, because after something breaks out, those guards are on you like white on rice. You know what I mean?
What were your fights over?
There was an older guy I was in there with, and I thought we were cool. We used to walk around the pod all day together just talking about bullshit. Like, I thought he was like my prison buddy. He's probably 20, 30 years older than me. And he just turned on me. Out of nowhere, like, fuck you. I don't know if someone had said, hey, this guy said something about you. You know what I mean? But it was like night and day. And he's like, hey, man, why don't we step into the showers over there? We'll sort this out. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem, man? Like, why are you turning on me, And he couldn't really give me a reason. I'll be goddamn if I'm going to go into the showers. I'm not dumb. So at the dinner table, we sat across from each other, and he started talking shit on me. And with full knowledge that the guards were, a couple yards away, I swung on him. They saw that. The guards came over, pinned me to the ground, pinned him to the ground. And then I got a 6-week vacation in solitary. The only other real fight that I had was